This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to join my Instagram Live. That's on my personal handle, @Jody Fisher, every Thursday night at 8:45 p.m. An odd time, I'll admit, but I rescheduled it a few times because the personal schedule wasn't working, and I was running Dad's taxi service, taking my kids back and forth to stuff, as I need to do because I'm a dad. And so 8:45 has just become the default time. We'll see if that works. We'll see if maybe 9 o'clock works in the future. But for now, it's 8:45. So that's every Thursday night, 8:45 Eastern Time on my personal Instagram handle. That's @Jody Fisher. Dial it in, bring your questions. We play our game called Why Is That News, where I try to decipher a story that I find in my local newspaper and tell you why I think it made the paper, why I think they decided to report on that, and also what I think the PR person who might have pitched the story put into that story. So again, Instagram Live @Jody Fisher, 8:45 every Thursday night. Join us there. Now on with our show today. All right, so no guests today. We're going to take a break from the guests. We've got a bunch of great ones coming up. But we're going to take a little pause, as I sometimes do, and turn over to the Reddit public relations subthread. Subthread, is that what you call it? I'm not a real Reddit person. I'm really not. Some people I know are. They use it terrifically. But I just go there for this, basically, where we are going to answer some questions off of Reddit. I'm going to read them kind of cold and give my gut reaction to some of these questions and see if we can help some people out. So if you ever had a question about public relations, here we go. All right, question number one, titled "I Want to Be a Journalist," comes from Outrageous Bat 3065. And it says, "I want to be a journalist. Pipe dream? Question mark." So let's scroll down here to the question itself. And it says, "How hard is it to be a journalist after working in PR? Is it a realistic switch?" I thought that was an interesting question because I think a lot of PR people move in the reverse direction, right? Lots of journalists become PR people. I was one of them. I was a radio reporter for years, decided that I wanted a change in my career, and I became a PR person. I've done that for the last 25 years. But here's the question going in the reverse. You're in PR, and you want to become a journalist. Well, without scrolling down here on the page, I think, number one, you should go for it, right? If you want to do something, you need to try. Even though Yoda says there is no try, and I believe in Yoda. But I do think you got to give it a shot, right? Now, I think you also need to be realistic about it. And the first thing that I think of is experience, right? How hard will it be pivoting from one career to another career? And how much of that experience is transferable? Now, certainly, if you've been in PR, I think there are some transferable skills there, just as they are in the opposite direction. Getting into journalism, though, especially if you are, let's say, a few years into your career, if you're not, a youngin' right out of college or university or whatever, and willing to accept, and understandably willing to accept, slightly smaller pay, I think that might be a challenge. And journalists don't get paid a lot of money. I'm living proof of that, and every other working journalist, I think, is also living proof of that. Journalists don't make a lot of money, and you can count on just two hands the number of people who work in network, and even the network people probably don't make that much money comparatively to other industries, other professions where you can climb the pay ladder and make a little bit more. But in terms of wanting to get into it, if you want to get into it, go for it. I do think we need more journalists. Journalists are getting cut left and right. And I think that would be a challenge too. I think if you're trying to become a journalist, trying to find a job is going to be tough because, newsrooms are already cutting. They're not necessarily hiring, they're cutting. Now, there are other newsrooms that are hiring. My local newspaper here on Long Island is hiring, and they seem to always be hiring, but that's because they have an owner who is very invested in their news product. And I think those publications, whether they're print or TV or radio, are very few and far between. So just have a realistic outlook on what you want to accomplish. But again, you got to go for it. All right, here's question number 2. How do I get into crisis PR? And this is Ambitious Wing 7379 writes, how do I get into crisis PR, entertainment PR in the UK? Now, granted, I'm not in the UK, so we'll do this through a US lens, but let's read the question. It says, hello, I would like to work in entertainment PR, movies, music, celebs, or crisis PR, Olivia Pope style, but I'm not sure how to go about it. Are there even such jobs that common? When I search for crisis PR jobs, nothing much comes up. Same for publicist jobs. Does anyone have any experience working in those jobs and are able to tell me about how they got into it? I think you watch too much TV. Number one, I don't really know any PR people who set out to be crisis people. Crisis finds us. And I think there are people who become very good at crisis and build a life and a practice and a job around crisis. And that's terrific and that's important. But I don't think they got into it saying, I want to live, sleep, eat, breathe crisis all the time. Because the first thing you need to understand about crisis is that they come along whenever they feel like it. Crises come along whenever they feel like it. And you have to sign, if you're going to be in crisis PR, you have to sign over your life. You are no longer in charge of your schedule. It's kind of like being an EMT or, someone like that. Granted, you're on a shift or off a shift or whatever, but if you're in crisis PR and your client has a crisis, congratulations, you're working. Doesn't matter that it's Christmas Day. Doesn't matter that it's your birthday or your mother's birthday. Doesn't matter it's your wedding anniversary. There's a crisis. You drop everything. So that's the number one thing I think you have to be prepared for if you want to work in crisis. I also think that this question is something that really grinds me because I think this is what people think public relations is: crisis and entertainment. They're the two most toxic words to describe public relations because they are what you see on TV and what you see in the movies. And it is, back me up out here, PR people, totally not what we do. There are entertainment PR people, sure. There are crisis PR people, sure. But the vast majority of us don't do that, don't touch it, don't want to touch it, and really are out here just telling good, positive stories about our clients, regardless of the industry that they're in. So my recommendation here to this writer, Ambitious Wing 7379, is turn off your TV, go talk to some people who actually work in public relations, and then decide whether or not you want to get into entertainment PR or crisis PR. All right, question number 3 here from Reddit. This is Metal Wolf. Oh, I love that name. They write, some PR firms give writing tests to interns and potential candidates. What should I expect? This is a great question, and I wanted to answer this one, give my impression. Now, disclaimer, I never took a writing test to get into public relations. I got the various jobs that I got based on my credentials, based on my reputation, based on my resume and my experience. I think writing tests are common. I think they can be misused. I think they can be, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like a bullshit filter. Like sometimes they just give you the writing test to give you the writing test and they're wasting their time. That said, writing is the most important skill that we as PR people have. Not to figure out if we're grammatically correct or that we know how to use an Oxford comma, but if we understand how to tell a story. And I think that's the most important thing without reading down into the comments or the answers here. I think that's the most important thing that you should expect, or that you should go into a writing test trying to accomplish, is telling a compelling story. Because that's what we do as PR people all day long. We get the interest of the reporters that we're reaching out to through good, solid, compelling writing. We tell a story in a sentence or two that gets a reporter to go, yeah, tell me more. So I think, obviously you want to be grammatically correct in your writing, and I hope that you are. Certainly, if you're getting to PR, you damn well better be. But that aside, the most important thing that you can do in a writing test is accomplish telling a compelling story that makes the reader go, tell me more. All right, question number 3 here comes from Kenshion072. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Doesn't matter. Kenshion doesn't know me. And they write, I have a red carpet tomorrow. How can I make the most of it? At your expense, Ken Shion, if you're trying to prepare for an event, whether it's a red carpet or anything else, and you're starting 24 hours before the event, you've lost. You can't prepare for an event 24 hours before an event. 24 hours an event, you are checking the final boxes. You are not starting what you're doing. But let's read down through this question. I'm influencer. Okay. Going to a red carpet tomorrow. What can I do? Oh, I see. I didn't read down and I misinterpreted the question. All right, so let's read the whole thing and maybe let's apologize to Ken Shion. Okay, so the headline is I have a red carpet tomorrow. How can I make the most of it? I am an influencer, they write. Going to a red carpet tomorrow. What can I do to potentially increase exposure or draw media attention? Of course, I know this is hard as an influencer, but just looking for advice. Okay, honest question. One, I don't think media cover influencers in the way you think media cover influencers. Influencers are that gray space in between the subject of the story and the media that's covering it. They are, slightly shifted towards the media that's because they're going there and they're covering it too, but then they're covering it in order to, let's start there. Influencers cover stuff, for lack of a better phrase, so they can deliver information to their audience, and they can somehow, and I don't say this cynically, profit from it, right? They grow their audience, they grow their followers, they strike deals that get them paid or get them other types of benefits, and that's their business model, and that's great, that's terrific. And I've worked with influencers before to bring awareness to clients, and I think they serve a really valuable purpose. They really can, despite the Kardashians that are out there. But how do you get media to pay attention to you as an influencer on the red carpet? The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head is to pull a stunt, to be outrageous. And like the Met Gala pops to mind, right? You see celebrities show up in these absolutely outrageous outfits. And that's kind of the point of the Met Gala, is to be outrageous. But nevertheless, as an influencer, I don't think that media, like if media were coming to cover a movie opening, who do media want to talk to? They want to talk to the stars and maybe the director or the producer or the, whoever, right? They want to talk to the people who are involved in making the movie, because that's the subject, other than the movie itself, that's the subject of the point of the red carpet. And so anybody who's peripheral to that really doesn't matter to media, I don't think. So again, I think probably the best way you could, as an influencer, and I'm assuming you're not a Kardashian, can get attention on a red carpet, is to probably be outrageous in some way, or be unusual or different or strange in a good way, kind of way. Let me just read down the comments here to make sure that I'm getting the flavor of this question right. The time for asking, that's Dark Horse 182. Time for asking these questions to people who specialize in publicity was months or weeks ago, not the day before. Hey, there you go. Okay, so I agree with Dark Horse there. Best thing to do is enjoy yourself, conduct yourself professionally, make good impressions on the event organizers and other behind the scenes industry. Oh, there's a great point. There is a great point. make sure, and you know what, that's the same advice that I give about PR, about this being about the next hit. Getting invited to a red carpet as an influencer, probably the most important thing you can do, or one of the most important things you can do, is get invited to the next red carpet. That's a great point, Dark Horse. Love that. The goal is to get yourself invited to the next event, Dark Horse writes, where you can actually formulate a publicity strategy and not make a fool of yourself trying some half-cocked stunt you came up with the day before. Well taken. Well taken. And I fully agree. Here's some more suggestions. Take photos on the red carpet to post later, obviously. Reach out to invited media in attendance. They won't care. Accompany the influencer and guide them to the media. Well, I think they said they were an influencer. Doesn't matter. 100% one of the reasons you invite is for your shares with the right tagging on your handle for your audiences. Right. You want to create content and share that with your audiences. Just like the media report on the thing, you also are going to be reporting on the thing. Here's someone else writes, hire a PR expert well in advance. Touche. Fully agree. I think as an influencer, you want to go, you want to make sure that you continue to get invited to these events. You want to capture content of yourself and yourself interacting with other people at the event. You want to be as influential as possible on your social media, share, tag, promote, do all that stuff, and make sure you get invited to the next one. Fun question. All right, our last question here from Reddit, and this is Obsidian Siren 225. Boy, I love these names on here. I am not that cool. But this is titled Respect. And let's read what they ask here. I fell into comms and have been working on primarily arts and culture accounts for the last 4 years. Prior to this, I came from a journalism background. I'd like to get your advice. I've developed a lot of trust with my clients, but even so, the level of disrespect, both from media and from clients, is causing me burnout. How do you gain your power back and instead of feeling like a puppet? I think the problem is that as a boutique agency, we have grunt work plus consultation plus media relations happening at the same time as strategic planning. There's no clear-cut path. Any advice on how I can make my career trajectory more meaningful? I can almost feel the pain coming through this question. And I think anyone who's worked in media or PR has probably identified with this at one time or another. Media and PR is a difficult and challenging environment. There are lots of egos. There are short deadlines, which equal short tempers, and not a high tolerance for either for failure or for, delay, or like, come on, get it, it's like, come on, get it done and get it done right and get it done now and move on to the next thing. At least that's how I came up in a radio newsroom, right? And you get yelled at, and at the risk of sounding like a boomer shaking my fist at the sky, some of these kids don't understand what it is to get yelled at and, not crumble. But in any case, look, respect is paramount. There's no reason to not respect people in an environment, in a working environment. And you can deliver challenging and negative critiques and criticisms and, come on, let's get it done, motivation, things like that, and still be respectful, right? And I think this person is drawing the line here between, and doing a good job of drawing a line or setting a difference between respect and getting the job done. So I think they're not being overly sensitive, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So that's a good thing. Respect must be delivered. It doesn't have to be earned. Respect is a baseline, right? You must respect other people. And like I said, you can respect someone and still deliver constructive or critical criticism of them. That doesn't mean, when you do that, it doesn't mean that you disrespect them. One, I think you're probably, boutique agency jumps off the page here for me. And I wonder if the person who's in charge is abusing their authority. I don't know. It's not indicated here. But you need to check that for yourself. Is the person who's your immediate supervisor, or maybe the CEO, or whoever's ultimately in charge, are they being disrespectful? If so, that's a toxic environment that you just need to leave. There's no changing those people. So just move on to a new place. That's number one. Number two, it sounds like you got a lot on your plate. Well, that's kind of the definition of PR. Now, if you've got too much on your plate for you, again, this might be the wrong place for you, and that's okay. That's how they're choosing to run their business. You don't have to be a part of it. So you can also choose to move on. Disrespect from media and disrespect from clients. Well, it's disrespect from clients, same thing. If clients are being disrespectful, your CEO should fire them, and if your CEO doesn't fire them, then you should move on. There's no clients think that some clients, none that I work with, because I'm too old to deal with assholes anymore. But I've had clients in the past who have disrespected me, have been rude, have been, like don't give a shit, they don't care. And so I didn't have the opportunity to fire them because I wasn't in charge. I asked to be taken off the account. I asked to be moved on to something else. I brought it up. You would bring it up to my supervisor, what have you. But in the end, it's challenging for you as someone who's in the trenches to do anything about the disrespect that's coming from your clients other than to report it. And maybe occasionally to tell them, excuse me, that's not appropriate. You can't talk to me that way. Things like that. You can at least log it, right? At least bring it to their attention. Because maybe they said something they don't know. I mean, let's give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they said something that they don't realize. They said something that was disrespectful. Bringing it up once, I think, totally valid. If they dismiss it, then you have to take things into your own hands and move on. But disrespect from media, something that popped in my head when I read that. The thing that jumps off the page for me here is when you say that you get a level of disrespect from media. I'm wondering if that's because you are sending things out that are not useful to media. One of the big rules in PR, and one of the things that I believe in, is that every time you send something out to media, it should be something that is useful. It should be something that is applicable to them and the job that they do and the audience that they serve. The spray and pray method of public relations is crap. You can't do that. And even when I send out a news release to a list of 25 or 30 media who I know all will need it, I'm still not spraying and praying. That's a curated list that I know all of these people on this list at least will want to have a look at this information, or that I think will want to have a look at this information. If they don't use it, they don't use it. That's their call. But I'm not going to send a real estate and construction news release to the food editor at my local paper, right? And I think that's where disrespect from media sometimes comes from. Is that when they're getting things that don't apply to them, they can get very annoyed, and rightfully so, because their time is just as valuable as yours. Their inbox is just as cluttered as yours. And if they have to weed through junk, they're going to get annoyed, and they're probably going to blacklist you. Now, if a reporter is working with you and they're the right reporter to be working with, but they're still disrespecting you, you need to tell your boss. Your boss needs to have a conversation with their boss, and they need to know that you're not going to get this information anymore if this continues. Media don't get to disrespect you just because they have a particular opinion. So again, bring it up, just like in the other case. Bring it up, call it out, and you can exact a little bit of revenge on them too by giving their competitor the story next time and not giving it to them, and put the shoe on the other foot. But mostly what I want to say about this question is that make sure you stand up for yourself. Do not tolerate any environment that is causing you stress or causing you heartache. I've been through those environments. They suck. Um, do not tolerate anything. Speak up. Speak up for yourself. Enlist your supervisor, enlist the CEO of your company. Make sure that they know, because the good CEOs and the good managers will throw on their boxing gloves without hesitation, and go into battle for their people if they are a good manager. So I wish you good luck with that. And yeah, don't put up with any bullshit. All right, well, that's it. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.